What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Joannis or Joe Hatagwa. I'm a Sierra Leonean American living here in Accra, Ghana. And today I'm live again. I do a live every Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. East. I do a live at 9 p.m. GMT, 5 or 4 p.m. EST, depending on the time of year because of daylight savings. And then 2 or I guess 2 or 3 p.m. No, yeah, 2 or 3 p.m. PST, whatever. Anyway, I'm live. So today, let me give it a few minutes to let everybody get online before I start. We got a couple people in the room now. Give me a thumbs up to let me know you can hear me. Put something in the comments just so I know that you guys can hear me, so I know you're there. We got people coming in from Facebook. We got people coming in from YouTube. Yeah, so I'll just wait till I see a thumbs up or a comment to let me know that you guys can hear me before I get into it. Hopefully you can hear me. Otherwise, it would just be you trying to read my lips right now. But yeah, let me know if you guys can hear me. There's a little bit of a delay between when I'm talking and when you guys can hear me. It's something like about a 10-second delay. So let me give it a second so that you guys can let me know that you can hear what I'm saying. Somebody, anybody, let me know that you're here. All right, cool. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and get started. So today I'm going to do a quick news story just for anybody who's wondering what's going on in Ghana. And then a little bit about what's going on with me the last week, a little bit of an update, and then I'm going to leave it up to you guys to ask me any questions you might want to ask me. This is the time where if you want to ask what it's like living in Ghana, that this is the chance that you get. You can ask me directly. So first things first, there was actually a pretty big news story locally here, which I found interesting. I was in a shared ride, a taxi ride, Uber, on my way to somewhere. I can't remember where it was. And on the news, I heard this story, and the taxi driver was commenting on it, and he wasn't really too excited about it. You know, I wasn't really familiar with what was going on or anything about the story, but I basically just read that what was decided by, I guess, the parliament was that there was going to be a 2,500 euro per month salary to the wives of the president and the vice president, even amidst the pandemic, post-pandemic economic climate that we're in. Both the president and the vice president, who both were to be getting 2,500 euros per month. And it was supposed to be backdated 4 years under a move that was approved by the parliamentary committee. So if I'm not mistaken, that's about 80, I think it was 89,000. Oh, sorry, 899,000 Ghana cedis, which equals just about, let me do the math really quickly, equals $151,474 over that 4-year time span. So that was actually proposed. I just saw in the news today, as of this morning, the first lady and the vice president's wife as well, the second lady, both have decided to refund the amount received since 2017. Yeah, and that's the amount of 899,000 Ghana cedis, or over $151,000. So for context, right, in the US, for instance, the first lady does not earn a salary. I don't know if it's customary in other countries. You guys let me know in the comments, but it usually isn't customary, at least in the West, for the first lady to earn a salary unless they have some kind of cabinet position. And in this case, that wasn't the case. So what do you guys think, right? Do you think a first lady should earn a salary based on tax dollars. Um, so somebody said, I'm gonna put up the comment. The views of the viewers are in no way a reflection of my views necessarily, but I do want to just read this out loud. So Victor says it's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. America is a rich country and we don't even do that. That smells fishy. Yeah, I mean, look, each country has their own abilities and capabilities and their autonomy to make decisions on how they decide they want to do things. And for whatever reason, there was a parliamentary committee here in Ghana that initially had decided that they wanted to pay the first lady and the second lady. I would say that just because we don't do something in the West or from another place doesn't mean another country can't do it. So, look, it's totally up to them if they decided to do it. I am not a member of the voting public here, so I'm just here as a resident, just observing. I don't necessarily agree with paying out a salary to that degree to a first lady. I mean, it was 2,500 euros per month, considering the some of the economic insecurity that we're dealing with in this country here in Ghana, amongst a lot of the people who are like the working class folks. I can see why they were not really into that idea. And I can imagine if we were to do that in the United States, there'd be an uproar as well. So I'm glad that both her and the second lady have decided to give the money back. Hopefully it goes to programs that help to advance those who are economically insecure and help them push forward. I mean, I have staff that work for me. I have a housekeeper, and every once in a while we talk a little bit about her experience here and what life has been like. And she's not necessarily someone who thinks that highly of how the government's been run. For her, she's a working class person, and she just doesn't feel like she's taken into consideration when government makes decisions. So I can totally understand why people were outraged by it. Even if I had an opinion one way or another, but I could not justify speaking out about it or anything like that, because this is not my country, it's somebody else's country. So I'm just here. But yeah, so Victor, I get what you're saying. Yeah, interesting viewpoint. Anybody else have any thoughts about the first lady being paid? So for those of you who are just joining, we're talking about a recent news story where the first lady of Ghana and the second lady, so the vice president's wife, there was a parliamentary committee that had decided that not only should they be paid about 2,500 euros per month, but it should be backdated to when they came into office, or to 2017. I'm not sure if that's when they actually came into. Well, yeah, I guess it's from the previous term. So going back to 2017, they're to be getting back pay of 2,500 per month. And so in terms of Ghana CDs, that's 899,000 Ghana CDs, which is the local currency, which equates to $151,000 in that time span. So that was a big news story here, and it definitely caused a stir for sure. So anybody have any thoughts besides Victor? I think Victor made an interesting point there. If not, I can go on to some updates about what it's been like living here. Some people have been asking me about, what my week to week is like. And I'm going to be doing a vlog as well to talk about what last week was like and what happened last week. I'll just do overall updates on the live just so you guys can know where everything stands. Usually I talk about the real estate project that I'm working on, what work has been like, and some other updates. Okay, so here's another question. So before I jump into that, here's another statement. So from Kwasi, you said, what about the allowances being given to them which are unaccounted? Yeah, I can't speak to that. You guys know better than I do. I can say from my experience being on the continent, funds do go unaccounted for from time to time. I think that's the most politically correct way that I can put it. I can't speak specifically to Ghana, but yeah, I mean, if there are allowances being given which are unaccounted for, I think the people have a right to know. I can't speak to that though. That's not something I can speak very intelligently to. I don't know any details about that, so um, I'm going to leave it at that. But yeah, I mean, look, if there are, then they should be held accounted for, and it should come up. But I being here on the continent for as much as I've been, or as long as I've been here, and as often as I come to visit, these are the kinds of things I hear about all the time. And it just seems to me like it's just the name of the game right now. Until somebody steps in and changes these kinds of things, this is kind of how it's going to be. Um, we got Marishawn representing Sierra Leone. What's up? Yeah. So, any other comments about the first lady getting a monthly allowance? Oh, and the fact that she decided to give it back. I mean, look, there was a public outroar, outrage, outcry, and she and the second lady both decided to give the money back. So, like I said, it's 899,000 Ghana cedis, which equals 151,400 or so US dollars. They gave it back. So they decided not to take the monthly allowance, and they're making, then it's going back to the country, or at least going back to the government. So any thoughts on the fact that they decided to give it back? Thoughts, ideas? Okay, in my personal opinion, let me just say this. I think that was the right thing to do, right? My thing is, when you're a public figure, right, your constituency is what's most important, right? And you have to listen to your constituency, who voted you into office, and even those who didn't vote you into office, right? I mean, at the end of the day, you're the president or the first lady of the entire constituency, right? And so if your voters, or people who didn't vote for you, but people who are citizens of the country, are in disagreement with something, you should strongly consider it and make adjustments based on it. And so it sounds like that happened here. So kudos and props to her for doing that. I definitely would say I'm not sure that would happen in a lot of other places if that got voted in. So to see that they decided to do that, I think was really good. So with that, let me do some updates, some general updates about what life has been like overall. So on the house, so you guys know that I'm building a house. Okay, so Marish agrees with me. Yes, thanks. So I'm building a house in Sierra Leone, and as many of you know, that process has been a long process. What I said last week is what somebody told me, and they said, "Who you start with is not who you finish with," and that's absolutely true. So, my first contractor, I'm no longer working with him. We stopped working together in February of this year, even though I had been working with him all of December last year. And so, what ended up happening was I had to find a new contractor. His dad has a hip issue, and my new contractor has been attending to that. But the last message that he sent me was him agreeing to give me updates every week on what's been going on with the building. And he completely has stopped communicating with me updates about what's going on since June 25th. It's now July 13th, and it's been since June 25th since I've heard back from him. And so when it comes to these kinds of things, you kind of have to be patient sometimes. I mean, I do believe that he did have a family issue, but now it's starting to get out of hand because he said that he has fixed that, and he should be getting back to me through a proxy. So I have a family, my cousin actually works with him. They work together. My cousin is not the person who's the contractor. He just kind of helps with the overall vision. He has some ideas because he's been involved in some building. So he and the contractor have been in communication, but the contractor has not communicated with me, even though he had agreed to communicate with me. So where we last left off was I had to put a porta potty on the site because the original outhouse that was used by my caretaker had to be torn down to build the new boys' quarters or the caretaker's quarters. The porta potty that we put on site, number one, costs $300 per month. It's too expensive. So we want to just build another temporary porta potty, something that can be on site even through the building of the house so that the workers can have somewhere to go, right? And so we're going to have to get rid of the porta potty. We also have to move it out of where it is right now. And so the contractor was supposed to help with that. He has disappeared. So I'm just pushing to get a response from him. I actually just messaged him right before we got on this call. So I'm expecting for him to get back to me at some point in time soon. I'm looking at my phone right now because I just got a new message. Okay, got a voice note from my cousin. So fingers crossed, it's a good update. So I'll keep you guys posted on that over the next coming weeks. All right, so going back to the previous conversation about the first lady and the second lady getting paid. What Akwasi said is the present government had wanted to formalize the money given to the first ladies and stop unaccounted allowances, which is shredded in secrecy. Okay, got it. So it's better to formalize it and make it public than have it be shredded in secrecy. But of course, once you do that, the people will revolt. And okay, well, that makes sense. At least in order to answer the reason why they did it. I mean, at the end of the day, I think the general voting public just was not into the idea. But thanks for the update. Seth says he wants to leave that subject alone. Yeah, I mean, look, I want to leave it up to you guys to talk about it and let me know what you guys think. I'll give, of course, my opinion, but my opinion as someone who's not Ghanaian of descent, and I'm not a Ghanaian citizen, really, my opinion really doesn't matter all that much, right? I think it's the opinion of the people that matters most with things like this. All right, cool. So back to some of my other updates. So what else is new? Oh, so for those of you who know, I did come here to start advising companies and to be a part of the startup ecosystem because I do believe in order for the continent to advance and to get to its rightful place on the world stage, we do need to advance in some of our technologies and entrepreneurship. You're starting to see some entrepreneurship on the continent really start to grow and people investing and buying companies that are on the continent. And so I just want to be a part of that startup ecosystem. So with that, I wanted to announce to you guys that I just literally yesterday, I signed a non-disclosure agreement with Google for startups. So that means that I can't really say a lot, I don't think, because it is a non-disclosure agreement, except right now, just to be safe, all I can say is they have an incubator program here. They work with startups, mostly in Nigeria. And I am going to be advising startups with Google for Startups. So I'm really excited about that. So you guys might know I'm already working with MEST. I'm working with Founders Institute, and now I'll be working with Google for Startups. So that's really exciting. I just got the announcement to yesterday once I signed the NDA. So that's really exciting for me. To be working with Google in any capacity is a big deal. And the fact that I'm a part of this startup ecosystem that Google is building, and I get to be one of the mentors and advisors in that program, I'm really excited about that. So yeah, so that's one of the other updates beyond the house is this Google Accelerator. Akwasi says, is it Akwasi or Akwasi? It's Akwasi. Akwasi, right? It's Akwasi. I'm not necessarily Ghanaian, Sierra Leonean and American, but I get what you're saying. I'm here. I'm embracing the culture. I appreciate it. Another person who's here every week, appreciate you. Only one, I don't know how to pronounce your name. You're gonna have to tell me how to pronounce it. Is it Sean Ray? But you say hello. What's up? Thanks for joining. We got more people coming in. So we got a bunch of people actually coming in now. I guess usually about 20 minutes in, people start getting the notifications and they jump on. Thanks, Marish, for the congrats. I appreciate it. I'm really excited about the Google for Startups program. Really excited about it. So definitely, I'll keep you guys posted about what that program looks like and what kind of startups I see and whatever information I'm allowed to share. I'm going to share with you all because it's been really, really exciting to get the invite to be involved, and then now I'll be talking to the startups and learning from them. They'll be learning from me, and I'll be sharing it with you all. Another update is if you're here in Ghana, get it. If you get a chance, you go about 2 hours. I don't even know which direction it is, east or west, to Aqua Safari Resort. I will tell you right now, it's a great resort. I'm not gonna say it's one of the best resorts in Ghana because it's the only one I've been to. But I've been to a couple of resorts around the world. I've been to resorts in like Jamaica, Dominican Republic, and places like that. And what I liked about this resort is that it's not just kind of just like a resort, like a hotel. They have like horseback riding, they have boat rides, they have jet skis. They have a number of different activities you can do. So it was actually really good time. I went with a friend a while back, and then this last weekend we had our management retreat. So for senior leadership at Jumia, we went there for kind of like a company offsite. So Friday we had a day full of like team building activities, things to really make you think, but it's also like physically strenuous. So that was cool. That had nothing to do with Aqua Safari Resort, even though we did it at Aqua Safari Resort. And then they have conference rooms. And so Saturday we spent all day, kind of strategizing about how we're going to hit our goals for the second half of this year. And so that was really good because of the pandemic, we hadn't all been in one place at the same time and really didn't have that much time with each other. So this weekend was really, really good because it gave us that opportunity. And then we did a breakout session at the end of the day about different lines of business that we wanted to grow. And then we presented it the following day. And, each of our breakout sessions did a presentation the following day on Sunday before we did a boat ride, which was really fun too. We got a chance to see all the really, really nice houses along that river. There's some really seriously nice houses. So on Thursday of this week, I'm going to do a vlog and I'll share with you all of the footage from Aqua Safari so you can see what it was like from my first person view, what it was like there that last weekend. So it was a lot of fun. So there's a bunch of new people on. So really quickly, just to kind of recap what we talked about. I talked about the house situation. Unfortunately, my contractor has been MIA. My second contractor now has been MIA since June 5th, 25th, since June 25th. So right now, I'm just waiting for him to get back to me on some of the next stages in the process. I'm paying $300 a month for a porta potty, believe it or not. And so we need to get that off premises as soon as possible and a new toilet put on the site. And so I'm waiting for him to get back to me on that because, he's dropped the ball on that. But I did just get a voice note from his business partner. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that that's an update, a positive update. So we talked about that. I talked about the resort. Oh, and then I also mentioned that Ghana had a parliamentary decision to give basically a monthly stipend or allowance to the first lady and to the second lady. They also announced that they're going to give it back. It was to the tune of 2,500 euros per month, which is pretty high. And it equaled, and so the total amount since 2017, they were backdating it and paying it all now. The total amount was 899,000 Ghana cedis, which ends up being $151,000. Both the first lady and the second lady have decided to give it back. So that was a news update that I did. And then I mentioned that I got in as a mentor for Google for Startups. Another update for you all is the hot water. If anybody's been following me for a while, anybody who knows me, who's watching this, who knows me personally, the hot water issue has been a challenge to say the very least. In my vlog, I will walk you through it more in detail, but there is like different layers and levels to getting the hot water. So some of you asked me about it last week. So we had there was different phases. So the first phase was just tearing down some tiles, going in and redoing the piping in all three of the full bathrooms, in order to have kind of a water in and a water out, so that you can go into the hot water heater, it heats it up and puts the water back in. Um, and so we had that done. And then they had a tiler put the tiles back on. So that was all done. Then I had to have an electrician come in and connect the power, so that you can have a switch to turn on the heater so that it starts heating up the water. So that was all done. So today we had the electrician and the plumber here together, and they're putting everything up. And the plumber tells me he doesn't have all his tools. So of course, that's one of the hot water heaters that is out of commission. So even though they were both here and I was this close to having the hot water heater set up, he didn't have his tools, so it has to be done another day. And then I found out in one of the other bathrooms, they didn't hook up the water in and the water out properly. So now there's a leak. So we can't use that bathroom. At least we can't use we can't use that bathroom at all because the water is leaking there. So that can't be used. So there is one bathroom where the hot water works perfectly. And I'm so thankful for that hot water to be working. I don't want to sound like I'm the guy that's complaining, but you pay for a service, you expect to get done. And of course, this is just kind of what comes along with it, right? Like living on the continent, there's so many positives and benefits to being here. But from time to time, it does, you do have to exercise patience. It does test your patience sometimes being here, especially with different kinds of service workers, because there's not always the level of professionalism you'd like to see, especially when a place like Ghana where there's so many smart, talented, very professional people here. You every once in a while run into those people who are just like the opposite of that, And so, unfortunately for me, the people that I'm using are the people that the building that I live in, they contract to work with them. So they work with them in another business that's associated with this building. And then they also work with them for the apartments building. And they have other buildings too that they work on. And so they came recommended from the building. So the plumber and the electrician are people that they already work with. And so, yeah, they kind of dropped the ball a little bit. But at least I have hot water in one of the bathrooms. So I'll take it. I'm so happy to have the hot water. All right, cool. So those are the updates. We're about 30 minutes in. At this point, I'd like to turn it over to you guys. Do you guys have any questions for me about what it's been like living here? Anything I mentioned so far? There's a lot that I went over. The house in Sierra Leone, the apartment here in Ghana, Google for Startups. I'm now an advisor for Google for Startups, so that's a new update. And the news story. So anything that I mentioned today, anything that I haven't mentioned, any questions that you guys have for me. Like I said, I know that there's a little bit of a delay. It's at least a 10-second delay. So I'm going to give you guys some time to write your questions. But yeah, ask me about anything. You can ask me about anything going on here. And I'll do my best to answer your questions to the best of my ability. Any questions at all? Usually it takes a little while. It takes one person to write the first question, and then other people start writing their questions. What I've noticed is that like people are a little shy at first, and then after someone writes a question, they start writing questions. Here's something interesting while we wait. This brand here is probably one of the more popular brands, and it's a mineral water. And so they add all kinds of things to it. Apparently, it's supposed to be really good for you. I don't really know. But I mean, everywhere you go, you see this brand of water. I mean, hotels, restaurants, everywhere. This brand has cornered the market here in Ghana. So I was doing that to kill time while questions come in. Mm. You know what questions come up actually recently that wasn't in the live last week, and I thought was an interesting question. Somebody asked me, um, would I ever move back to the United States? Which is a really good question. And sometimes on a day like today, I think, yeah, maybe. But I don't think so. I think I'll always have a home in the US. Technically, I'm on a lease in New York right now, and my old roommate occupies the apartment with his wife. And so, there's a possibility that I could always potentially go back. I'm also looking to buy land and property and a rental property in the US, specifically in New York. So, I'll always have property there, but I don't see myself moving back to the US. There's just so many elements about the US that, although I'm grateful for my previous career, my education, my upbringing, all of the good things that have come out of my parents deciding separately to move to the United States, and me being conceived there. I would say, I'm really grateful for that. And it's a great country in many ways. There are also many challenges there. I was having this conversation with somebody yesterday. Um, you know, Being here on the continent, I feel like I can be fully myself. Like, and what I mean by that is like specifically in the workplace. If I feel like something frustrates me, I feel like I can express it outright. I feel like I don't have to be a representative for the entire Black race in the United States. And it's not necessarily something that um, any one particular employer ever said like you're the representative for all Black people. When you meet people at a workplace like I did, and most of the workplaces that I was in, I was one of very few people of color in any of the roles that I was in. And a lot of times I would be asked questions that are really strange questions that people would ask, but it came from the fact that they had never really met a person of color or didn't really have friends that were people of color, or people would say statements to me that really just didn't make any sense. And so I think what that does to you psychologically is that it makes you feel like you have to be a representative for the entire race. So like you feel like you can never let your guard down. Like I never wanted to like hang out with my coworkers in any way that they could see a version of me that was different from me in the office, because I felt like I was trying to be a representative for all the people who don't get the opportunity to see them. Because what mostly gets portrayed of people of color, especially Blacks or Black Americans or African Americans or Africans in America, is drugs and violence, right? And so, and of course, our musicians don't necessarily help that with the kind of music that's made in the US. But you know, it just felt like the way we were perceived, I felt like I had to present the best version of myself at all times so that they had a counter narrative to what they saw on the news or in music videos or um, portrayed in scripted television or reality TV as well. And so I just don't feel like I have to do that anymore. I could just be myself. I felt like I don't have to have a guard up and a wall up anymore. Like I feel like I can just be myself, which I can't tell you how freeing that is. You know what I mean? Like to not have to try to present something to these people so that, their impression of Black people is not what they've been getting from TV. And, like I said, it's not something that anyone said to me specifically. It was just some of the things that were said to me. Like people would say to me, like, man, you're so articulate. Or when I would tell people like, my family background and stuff, there would be a lot of like, oh, I just assumed your parents were like doctors and lawyers, because they couldn't imagine people whose parents are blue collar workers producing someone who speaks proper English, right? Because in their mind, the only Black people that spoke proper English were people who were children of doctors and lawyers, right? They couldn't imagine that. They couldn't compute that, right? And so, or people would say, man, you dress really professionally, right? Like, as if that's not something that people of color do, right? Like, so I think that that was the kind of thing that I was combating every day. And I guess the term for it now is called a microaggression, which I never even had terminology for it my entire career. I've been working full time outside of college, right? Because I started in college technically working, but like for a real career in 2006, at the end of 2006, early 2007. And so I've always heard those kinds of comments. And so I had been living my life trying to make sure that I was the best representative of a Black person that I could be, to be a counter narrative to what they had been seeing. And so that's definitely different for me here in Ghana and Sierra Leone. I haven't been anywhere else yet in West Africa. I know I gotta go. I haven't been yet, but so that's been huge for me. So number one, so that's the main reason why. One of the main reasons I don't want to go back. Another one too is just I feel like it's a country divided, and it's also a country oblivious of it losing its stronghold in the world. But there's still people there that believe that they still have it. People in politics, people who are in positions of power, who believe that the U.S. is, the number one world power. And although economically it's up there, it's really losing power in many geographies to like China. And I think it's important that Americans in America do know that, because it may not happen right now, but I read a couple of books. A book called *Sapiens*. There's another book that I read. I can't remember what it was called, but it talks about how, or a lot of these books that I've been reading talk about how that the rise and fall of these major empires, right? And it happened to the Roman Empire, it happened to the Greeks, it happened to like Genghis Khan, and it's when you get so arrogant, um, uh, and you believe that you are so far above and better than everyone, and you stop taking care of the poor in your country. It's like a confluence of these things coming together. And that is when you have people, because the poor is usually who goes and fights your wars. So you have people stop signing up to go to fight your wars. You have economic instability, and you have political unrest, and all these things happen. And it happens slowly, but then it happens all at once. And so knowing that I see that this is on the horizon for the United States, and I'm sorry to say it, but I just believe that it's to be true, I didn't want to have all my eggs in that one basket. I do believe that if I'm wrong, though, I still want to have property there just in case I'm wrong. So I am still buying property there. But I prefer to be here on the continent where that's not a problem for us, right? We've already been behind because of how the Western world has treated us over the last 400 years. And so we're now moving to our renaissance. And so I just want to take part in that. And I just don't see it making sense for me to move back to the United States, where I think, it's kind of like going in two different directions. So that's why I may not be moving back to the US. I don't think ever. I'll have a residence there. I co-own some property already there. So I'm more than happy to go back and visit, but I don't know if I'll ever move 100% full time. All right, so Henry Ross says, okay, what kind of life would a senior from the States have in Ghana? That's a good question. I think it depends on what your retirement fund looks like, right? So the cost of living is a lot less here than it would be in the US, right? So you have the ability to make your dollar stretch a whole lot more here. So yeah, I would say, the cost of living is less. There also is pretty good healthcare. I just went and got my yearly physical at a doctor's office here. There's, my primary care physician locally here he practiced in the UK for a while. And then the guy who started the clinic practiced in the US, I think, for 30 years. So you have a very, very quality healthcare here if you know where to go and who to go to. So for sure, I would say the healthcare system is pretty good here. But, I think it makes sense to have a plan to travel back and forth if necessary for your healthcare. But they tend to have alternative versions to medications too. My mother's a senior, and I know as a senior, especially in the U.S., you're expected to be on a ton of medication. I don't know if you are, Henry. That's kind of your personal business, so I don't want to get too deep into that. But if so, there are alternative versions of those medications here, especially the UK versions. And so most medications that people take are available here. And so I would definitely say that, those kinds of things are all available to you. What else can I say about us? What it would be like being a senior? It's hard for me to say because, obviously I'm in my mid to late 30s, almost in my 40s. I'm knocking on the doorstep of 40 in a couple of years. So it's hard for me to say what it would be like for a senior here, and I don't know too many seniors here. But the life here it's a tropical environment. It's a very relaxing environment. It's very chill. And you're not a minority here. So, I think that those things are all really great. And like I said, the quality of life is just really great here. So I hope that answers your question. If you have any more specific questions, feel free to add them to the chat. But that's the best I can do to answer that question for now. But let me know if you have any other specific questions. I'm happy to help answer. Broderick says he wholeheartedly agrees. I guess that has to do with what I was saying about the U.S. And where it's going and all of those things. Yes. So the young Sierra Leonean, thanks for coming through. And also Broderick, thanks for showing up. I know you were here last week as well, and you asked some questions too. The young Sierra Leonean says kusheo, which means like hello, welcome. I never know how to translate kushe, but yes, thanks for coming. All right. So only one says, do you have any trusted contacts you can recommend to help people that are visiting Ghana? For example, take them around different parts of the country or help them with buying items from the market. Yeah, so that's a good question. Trusted contacts. There is a tour guide that I use, pretty expensive, not gonna lie, but a lot of diasporans and expats use him for their tours. His name is Ben, and he has Big Ben Tours. It's on what's the website that he uses? I'm gonna put it in the description. But I used him to go to Independence Square. He took me to the Kwame Nkrumah Museum, gave me a tour of that. He took us to W.E.B. Du Bois Museum and gravesite, and he also took us to Cape Coast. And so, really good tour guide, and then also just a person who can just drive you to where you need to go, and then you'll have a local tour guide at some of those places. So he was helpful, and he knows what stuff to do. He could tell you what stuff to do. He actually messaged me recently and told me about another thing I need to go do. So I'm going to message him back about that. So I would recommend him. I'll put a link to him here. And if you look at my both my tours of St. George's Castle and Cape Coast Castle, I have his link there on my YouTube channel. And then also, the Kwame Nkrumah Museum, I have a link to his page on TripAdvisor. That's what it's called, on TripAdvisor. So that's who I would use. Now, as far as buying items from the market, that's going to be tough. The best thing I can tell you to do is try to end up at half of what the asking price is that they tell you the price when you get to the market and you go to buy something. That's the best that I can tell you. When you're a foreigner, and when I say foreigner, it's just someone with a foreign accent, just like in any country, right? They tend to mark the prices up because they're expecting you to have more funds coming from some international country, right? So, what I usually do is I just cut the price in half and say to myself, that's the number I want to end up at, is the price half of what was quoted to me. So that's a trick that I can give you. I would say to start with that. And everything is a bargain here. If you see the first video I think I ever posted on my channel was 10 things I wish I knew before coming to Ghana. And one of them was bargaining. And so I mentioned that in that video. But yeah, for sure. I would definitely say that would be my recommendation. I don't know of anybody who can take you around. Um, if you know any locals or if you meet any locals, people are very friendly here. They're happy to help. Yeah, so that's the best thing I can say. I got lucky. A friend of mine was coming here with me, and he decided, and he had a YouTube channel, and he was the reason why I started my YouTube channel in February. And he actually introduced me to Truvon, who is another YouTuber here locally. And when we went to McCullough Market, she did like most of the negotiating for us. She really helped us out. It's really helpful to have someone locally, because from that I kind of had an idea of how to do it. So yeah, that would be my recommendation: is if you can find someone here locally, do that. Unfortunately, I can't give you any suggestions because I got lucky. It was just through a YouTube connection that I ended up having someone here locally. All right, so Broderick asks, planning a family trip to Ghana with my wife and kids. Nice. We are planning I'm guessing first part of 2022. He said, my family's interracial, wife is Vietnamese. How are Asians viewed over there? Interesting question. So I would say, if I'm not mistaken, and I haven't seen as many of them as I expected, but I read somewhere that the second highest population, or the highest population of, now this is, you said Asians, so I know that I know that Vietnam and China are two different countries, but I heard that the largest population of Africans in Africa is apparently in Ghana. So there are a lot of Chinese people here, and so I don't know if Asians are treated differently at all. As far as I understand, you know, Ghanaians are just open to the outside world, period. They're just very friendly and welcoming. So I can't imagine there'd be any issues with anything like that. There are other interracial families here as well. Some of them do YouTube channels, as you might have seen. There's a really prominent, popular one who has like 50,000 subscribers, and I think she's Japanese and Ghanaian. And so I don't think that there'll be any issues there, as far as I understand. I mean, if there are other Ghanaians on, please correct me if I'm wrong, but as far as I know, I think you're good to go. No, there should be no issues there. The purpose of the visit: to see if the viability of Ghana as a second home for your family. What areas should we focus and prioritize? Do you mean like areas to live? I would say it all depends on your budget, right? So, Cantonments is a pretty expensive place, but like very high-end luxury buildings, right? So that depends. That depends on your budget. If you're more budget conscious, I would say Chado is an area that's up and coming, still a little cheaper. Like I got a 3-bedroom, 3.5-bathroom apartment for the same price that I was seeing for 2 bedrooms in like East Legon or Adringano, and not nearly as nice. So for sure, you can find some nicer places in Chado for the right price. So Chado is spelled Tseaddo. So it's pronounced way differently from how it's spelled. Don't ask me, but that's how it's done. So that'd be my recommendation, is Chado. Some people say East Legon. Some people say other areas. You go further out. Spintex, I heard, is an area that's not so expensive. But like if you're looking for somewhere a little bit more quiet, and especially for a family, Chado to me seems to be that area. It's not as busy. So that would be what I would recommend. You're welcome. Let's see, what else? Etisen, young nephew. I enjoy your content, love your beard, and you totally understand what's happening in the West. The same way countries went up, they should fall down, continue growing. Thank you, Ruby. I appreciate it. I really appreciate that. And thank you for the compliment on the beard. I've been working on this thing for a couple years now, so I appreciate that. Thank you. And so Brown Coat Blue says a lot of people are going to ask between 4 and 10 times what they will sell it for. So this comes back to the negotiating of prices, right? So yeah, I mean, that's a good point. Sorry, I just need to get some mosquito repellent. So that's another thing I would say about being here. Unfortunately, the mosquitoes in Ghana have a little bit of an affinity for people who aren't from here. You know, like everybody I know from Ghana is like, oh, the mosquitoes aren't a problem for me. They are for me. So I got some DEET-free bug spray that I use. So I'm just gonna apply that right now. Sorry, guys, I just need to, because this is a big deal for me. I'm not a mosquito. I'm not a fan of mosquitoes. So anyway, so yeah, but that's a good point. They will charge more than they need to. So make sure that you're ready to at least cut the price in half. But also at the end of the day, too, also keep this in mind, right? That might be the only thing they sell that day. So you don't have to haggle them down too far, but like especially if it's a product that you would be spending more for in the United States. That's one thing that I think came up in my discussions with people that I had to kind of take a second to think about, right? Like, because we like to haggle, right? Like that in the US, this same item might go for, closer to what the asking price might be in Ghana, right? And so I think you also want to take that into consideration too. Like, this might be the one thing that they sell that day, and these are hardworking individuals. So I also take that into consideration, even though I still cut it in half. I'm not going lower. I'm not going to try to go lower than that, right? I mean, so that's one recommendation I'll make. Any other questions about what it's been like for me here on the continent? Good questions, good comments so far. I'll do my best, like I said, to answer your questions. So we're actually at 50. Wow, we're at 51 minutes already. I didn't realize how much time has gone by. Usually at this time, I tend to get ready to wrap it up. So if you guys have any more questions, let me know. I'm happy to answer them for you. What it's been like, what my experience has been like. I'm trying to think if there was anything else that I missed, that I forgot to mention. Oh, let me ask you guys this. Would you guys like to see me have more guests? The first two lives I did, the first one was with Ivy Prosper. She has a pretty big channel, by the way. Check her out. She actually does the social media for the Year of Return and Beyond the Return. And then I also did another one with Shadara Stephen, who also has a pretty big YouTube channel. Oh, sorry. Let me go back to Ivy Prosper. So Ivy also has her own YouTube channel. I think she just hit 15K subscribers, so check her out. And then also I did one with Shadara Stephen. She has 2 channels now, and she is Nigerian, but she's currently living in Ghana. And so let me know if you guys would like to see me do more lives with other people. If you want to hear like their viewpoint on the news stories of the day or what life has been like for them, I would definitely be happy to add more people if they're open and available. Okay, so Hela asks, or Hila, how do you get it? How did I get a job so easily in Ghana? Yeah, it's a good question. So it wasn't that easy. So let me kind of walk you guys through what this process was like for me getting a job here. So I came to Ghana because I wanted to focus on advising startups on the continent, right? And so I wanted to be in that world so that I can eventually move into venture capital and start investing money into startups. And so I started the application process of applying for jobs in July of last year from Vermont in the United States. And so all through July, August, September, October, November, and December, I've been looking for jobs through LinkedIn. And I stopped focusing solely on roles that are in accelerators or in advisory roles. And I started also looking at roles that were in my career background. So I have a 14-year career in advertising. And so, what happens a lot here on the continent is if you're taking a job, especially with the 14 years I've had of experience, they tend to want to hire someone who comes especially from the West, because the expectation is that you're bringing insight and knowledge that may not already be here. I will tell you that these people are very capable and very smart people. much smarter in a lot of cases than people that I've worked with coming from the other companies I've worked at. But I've worked at larger companies that generate a lot more revenue. And so, for instance, in my last job, I was managing partnerships that were responsible for $350+ million per year, right? And the company that I'm at right now, if you look at their financials, they're publicly traded. They don't even make that per year as a whole company, right? And so, obviously, they look at that experience coming from the West as valuable job experience, and it helps you to get a role here. I also had the added benefit of having a peer mentor who knew the CEO of Jumia Ghana. And so he gave me a private introduction to her over WhatsApp. And then when the role became available, I messaged her directly, and then she put me through to human resources. And 2 months later, I had the job. So, it also happened to be who I knew, who knows what I do well, all of that. And that's what helped me get the job. Okay, so what was the next? I hope that answered your question. Broderick asks, when are you going to be on again? I want to be able to catch your live more consistently. Thanks, Broderick. I actually do a live every Tuesday at 9 p.m. GMT. That is going to change in the US, though. That time in the US changes because you guys do daylight savings there, and we don't here. So it'll either be 4 or 5 hours behind. But set your notifications for my channel. So when you subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell. I feel like I'm doing one of my videos, but hit that notification bell. It will notify you when a live is coming. And so I do a community post that'll remind you the morning of that a live is coming. And then you'll be notified at the time of. But I definitely thank you for stopping by for sure, and it'll be every week. Brown Coat Blue says guests are always fun. The more the merrier, as they say. Okay. So I would be happy to have other people on. So yeah, I'll definitely think about doing that. I'll think about how I want to do it. So what I've been doing so far is just been doing like what the news of the day has been, or the news of the week, I should say, in Ghana, and then giving my opinion, and then getting the audience opinion. When I did the lives with the two other folks, I was getting their opinion and the audience opinion, which is interesting too. And so that makes a lot of sense. Brown Coat Blue also said you should interview the lovely woman that teaches you Tree. She's fun. She's fun. Yes, her name is True Vaughn. You should follow her channel as well. She is a Ghanaian, local Ghanaian, who does content about all kinds of stuff here in Ghana. So you should definitely check her out. Yes, so if she is available, I would love to have her on. So I'll ask her for sure if she'll be on next week or any one of the upcoming weeks. I'll definitely ask her if she's down to do it. And I'd love to have Ivy Prosper back on as well. And even Shadera. Anybody who wants to do it, I definitely want to do it. There's some other people that I'm meeting with, some other YouTubers. I can't tell you as of yet, because I want to make sure that the content is shot and that I actually do meet with them. But if you guys follow influencers here, I'll give you a hint. It's 2 of them who have a channel together, and they're not a couple. Yeah, that's what I'll say. So I'm planning on meeting them this weekend. They have a really interesting channel, a lot of good content. I would love to have them on. They're full of personality. They live here. They're doing really well with their social media stuff, and they spend a lot of time in the US and back here. So I'd love to have them on too. So what I like to do is try to have different guests. But whether I have guests or not, I would definitely be here to answer your questions live as they come up. All right, cool. All right, now we are almost at an hour. I can't believe it went by that fast. Anybody who knows me personally knows I love to talk, so it's easy for me to go 1 hour on a YouTube live. Are there any more questions from anybody on the live? I see that the numbers are going up, so more people are joining. Anybody who's joined recently have any questions for me? about what life has been like for me or anything I've talked about already today? Any other questions? These have been all great questions so far. Happy to answer any more questions. I need to drink some more water. All right. So another thing, if you guys want, I'll also start doing lives from other locations. I'm definitely in my bedroom right now. As you can probably see, my bed is behind me. Um, and so I'm still furnishing my place. So there's no like artwork behind the bed, or there's not a lot of artwork in here yet. I'm working on that. Eventually, I'm going to do a tour of the furnished apartment. I have a tour of the empty apartment that I did. I'm going to be doing a tour of the furnished apartment once it's done, so you guys can kind of see what my life is like here in Ghana. I wish I would have done a tour of any one of the apartments I lived in the US, but I didn't. So you won't get a chance to compare it to what it was like for me in the US. But I definitely will be doing that soon. Okay, so Joe Dynamite says, can you tell the difference between colonization and slavery? I mean, the effects. So I guess you mean like the effects in Ghana versus the effects in the Western world, right? Like the US, for instance, or in the Caribbean. I'm Joe Dynamite. Let me know if I'm getting you right. Can I tell the difference between colonization and slavery? Yes, I can. I would say that there is so much more generational trauma in the United States. I would say, not to say that there isn't here, because there definitely is, but um, most West Africans know where they come from, right? They know their tribe. There's a sense of belonging to a tribe that is really yours, and there's like a historical context to that. What I feel in the US is, a lot of us, and I consider, because I used to do it all the time. I rep for Brooklyn or the Bronx at one point in time or whatever, right? We represent an area that is not really ours, right? It's not it was never really our home. We don't really own the land. We don't really own the buildings, right? And so a lot of times you represent areas that aren't yours and don't have a direct connection to your roots. And so I would say, and that shows up in so many other ways, with the trauma, that generational trauma, So yeah, there's definitely a difference. I think, you know, and I can only speak for a couple of countries in West Africa, and really just my experience in Sierra Leone and here in Ghana. You know, there is still some of the effects, I think, of colonization that are here. So I don't know if you guys have seen the skin bleaching that happens, and there's a good amount of it happening. I mean, and it's not like everywhere all the time, but there's that, like, the viewpoint of light being better, I think, is found its way through many aspects of the certain aspects. I shouldn't say many aspects. Certain aspects of culture here, and so to me, I think that that's one of the differences. I mean, I don't see a lot of skin lightening as much in the U.S. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but that's not something I see. I see other kinds of body altering things. But like the skin lightening is something I've seen on the continent, and I do think that is a direct effect of colonization. So that's at least my opinion. Hope that answers your question, Joe. Let me know. Power Woman J does say yes, skin bleaching is a thing. It is, unfortunately. It really is unfortunate. I actually have a friend who, in her earlier years, like 4 years ago, she mentioned that she used to skin bleach as well. Okay, so Brown Coat Blue Coat says Tim Swain will be okay. I don't even know Tim Swain, so I'm gonna write that down and see who that is, and see if I can collaborate with Tim. Yeah, so I'll look into that for sure. Thanks. How do you see Takarati for a potential repat? Um, Good question. Unfortunately, I am not the best person to answer that. I haven't been to Takarati yet. I've been told good things. A lot of people talk about it and say you should go to visit. I haven't been yet. So I can't really answer that question as of yet. I will. Actually, that's not public knowledge. Let me see how I can put this. Okay. I will say that I know of um, companies here that although they have offices in Accra, when they're looking to expand to other parts of Ghana, uh, Takoradi is somewhere that they look to also have offices. So that would be best way to answer that. But I don't really have too much detail. I'm sorry. Um, So okay, so you mentioned okay, so only one says that Tim Swain would be a good interview. Okay, good, good. Okay, Joe, I'm glad I answered your question. Yes, brown coat, blue coat. Oh, we already mentioned that. Yes, okay, yeah, skin bleaching isn't a thing in the U.S. Not so much. Yeah, I did notice that. Um, Power Woman J says, sorry, I say Power Woman, but it's Pro Woman. Sorry, Pro Woman J says, can you document and vlog about building of authentic African platform? I actually am. So I technically have two YouTube channels. I had a channel that I started back in 2010 during the financial crisis. Many of you who know me know the story, but I was in my second job out of college. It was 2008. I was making the company I was working for $90,000 a month, and I had this big ego. Felt like I was finally making it. I had gotten like a big commission check of like $12,000. I thought I was living the life, and I was associating the money I was making with my personal worth, and so I was in for a rude awakening when I was called into the office the day before I was supposed to start working the next pay schedule to get another $12,000 check. So I'd already spent all of the $12,000 previous check already, and I got fired the day before I was supposed to be working in the next pay cycle to get the next check. So what happened was I went into kind of a depression a little bit. Once I got myself out of it, I decided to say that I was never going to be in that position again. And I started buying courses on how to build your presence online. And so one of these courses said to start a YouTube channel and start recording like 5 videos a day. So I didn't last too long doing it, but if you just go to, like, if you just search Joannis Hatagwa on YouTube or Joe Hatagwa on YouTube, besides Authentic African, there's a whole nother channel. And that channel has kind of been dead for a while. I posted a lot on it. Then I didn't post at all for like 4 years. And in 2014, I started posting again. And then I stopped posting again for a long time. And then now I posted up a course that I hadn't done for me. So I posted that up on that channel for free. But that channel has not had much engagement or movement. But I do plan to document this experience building this channel on that page. I haven't started that as of yet because I really wanted to give this the focus and attention it deserves, because I really do want to show people what it's like moving to the continent. But I also do want to tell people what it's like to build a YouTube channel or an Instagram channel. So I don't know how many of you follow me on Instagram, but I have around 33,000 followers on Instagram, which was the reason why my friend was like, you need to get on YouTube, because if you had 33,000 subscribers, you wouldn't be looking for a job. That would be your full-time job. And so that was kind of the push for me to say, okay, let me get on YouTube and really start sharing my story and giving value to the outside world. And hopefully the YouTube will compensate me for that. And then, I can continue to share that value. So that was a long way to answer your question. I will be documenting it, just not on the Authentic African channel. So if you want, you can go subscribe to the Joannis Hatagwa channel. And it will be there eventually. I'm thinking in the next month or so. But I mean, I'm going to start with like the basics. Like, I was actually screenshotting every Tuesday, screenshotting my subscriber growth. Because I think the week I went live on YouTube, I had about 200 subscribers right off the rip. But that's also because I had built my network on other social platforms and I was promoting it like crazy there. Everything from WhatsApp to LinkedIn to Facebook, a couple pages on Facebook to Instagram, and Twitter. And so that was driving traffic. So I had like 200 subscribers first week or so. And then as I was doing content, I did content with friends of mine who already had channels. And so I started to get some of their subscribers as well. So I'll definitely document all of that. And I will be doing vlogs on that on my other channel. But it's going to be another month or so as I continue to build this up and I feel more comfortable with the cadence and, I have a system in place. But I definitely will document it. Okay. So Teddy Imani asks or says, do you think the return of diasporas is creating gentrification in Africa, Ghana? I feel like Ghana is getting so much expensive. Yeah, that is a good question and a good point all in one. I do think that there is a bit of a gentrification happening. Because yes, real estate property goes up as people who are willing to pay more will pay more. But I don't think it's solely the diasporans. I also think that there are Ghanaians moving up the socioeconomic ladder who are also contributing to gentrification. Because I'm definitely meeting Ghanaians who are doing well for themselves, who were born and raised here, maybe went to college elsewhere and came back here and started businesses and doing well. So I don't think it's fully the diasporans, but I do think that that has something to do with it for sure. It's just gentrification happens when you have people of a socioeconomic status move into a neighborhood, right, and start to buy property, and then increase the rents once you own that property and start charging people. You charge people what locals can't pay. So yeah, I definitely think that that's part of it. And that's one of the negative impacts of having foreigners come to your country. If they're coming, they're like higher net worth than the average net worth of those locally in your country. So I yet to determine how that offsets the balance of the positive impact on the economy here. I'm sure there are some studies and stuff about that I haven't really gotten a chance to read yet. But yeah, I do think that there is a bit of that. It's so sad over here on the continent. I think this is probably in regards to the skin bleaching. And yes, I agree. Yeah. And there's another comment here from Brown Coat Blue. The wigs too. Oh my God, the wigs. Yeah, there's a lot of wigs here in Ghana for sure. Yeah, for sure. I see a lot of that. And yeah, it's a big business. It's a big business. I actually have a friend who I've been trying to who sells clothes, and I've been trying to tell them, you need to get into the wig business because man, there are a lot of wigs here, a lot. It just seems like an everyday part of life. There's a lot of wig wearing. Even my friends who live on the continent are wearing a lot of wigs. But I mean, people wear wigs everywhere. But I did notice that like it's pretty. It's pretty much everywhere. Yeah. All right. Broderick asked about primary schools in Accra. Are they comparable to private schools here in the States? So yeah, private schools comparable to private schools. Yes. In the sense that the education here is actually pretty good. Like there's some really good schools here. Like I work with a few people who went to like rivaling schools, and actually they were like public schools, and they're very, very smart people. Um, and I would say that they definitely have had me believing that I have no problem with raising my kids with an education here. And of course, when it comes to education, right, it's not just the school, it's the parents too, right? That's super important, because they're never going to teach you in school how to manage your debt, how to invest, those kinds of things. So I think those are the kinds of things that I think it's important for us to teach our kids, my future kids one day when I have them. Knock on wood. But yeah, so yeah, I mean, from what I hear, very good schools here, some very, very good schools. And like I said, I've met some really, really smart people, and they say a lot of good stuff about food. Hopefully that helps answer your question. I'm sorry, I don't have many details because I don't have any children. And all of the expats that I know that live here don't have kids. But there are a couple of YouTube channels that you can check out, people with kids that are here. So I think you could just, I mean, if you found my channel, you probably have seen other people's channels. I don't want to mess up their last name, but there's a family here. There's a couple called Expat Life too. You could check them out. They have children, I think, in primary school, so you could definitely check that out. Pro Woman J asks, have I gotten over jet lag yet? What's your sleep and daily schedule like? Yeah, long gotten over the jet lag. I've been here since December of last year. So that jet lag, I've been on this time zone since November of last year. Oh, Broderick, sorry, just to answer your question, it's Expat Life. Not two, I think just Expat Life. If you do a search, you'll find it. So sorry, I just wanted to answer that question before I went on to this one. So yeah, I've been here since November of last year. I mean, the jet lag hit me for like a day or two, and then I was fine after that. So the jet lag is not an issue for me. However, my sleeping schedule. I guess just now that I'm older and I have a million things going on, I definitely go to bed earlier these days. 10, 11 o'clock. I'm up at 6 a.m. every morning, no matter what. That's Saturday or Sunday. Because I'm running a YouTube channel, I'm working full time, and I'm an advisor on a number of different companies and projects. So I have to be up early to work. So that would be what I have to say for sure. Now the comments are coming in. Bleaching and wearing wigs is not an African continental problem alone. Yes, that is very true. Very true. Just observing what I've noticed here, but yeah, it's skin bleaching does happen elsewhere. It doesn't seem as prominent in the U.S., but I could be wrong. I hadn't seen it. I've seen other forms of body altering things beyond, like, more like surgical. Okay. YOA, and I never know how to pronounce this. Is it YOA or YOA or Yo? Yeah, YOA says that schools are good here. So yes. Okay, there you go. There's an opinion. So specifically speaking on Nicki and Beyonce saying that they use skin bleaching. All right. Okay. Yes, Ghana has become so expensive. I've been traveling to Ghana since 2002. Yes, inflation, but even when diasporans are struggling, how accessible will it be for local people? Yeah. All true. So yeah, I mean, it is getting a little expensive here in certain areas. I think you can find ways to make it work though, where it's not so expensive. I mean, I'm speaking as someone who lived in New York City and Los Angeles, so maybe my experience with what is expensive is going to be very different from what people would say is expensive here, because Los Angeles and New York are ridiculously expensive. And for a while, I worked at a company for about 2 years. I worked at a company where I was going to San Francisco once every 4 months, and it's ridiculously expensive. So my life here hasn't been anywhere near that expensive, but also, you have to do an adjustment for cost of living. So, the pay isn't as good here either. And so, when you equate that to the cost for certain things, I think it can be expensive. But I also think you can find places here that aren't too expensive though, right? Like I said, my apartment, I'm not gonna say what my apartment costs, but it's probably equivalent to a 2-bedroom in like Ohio, maybe not even in Cleveland, right? So the Midwest, I've seen some of the real estate prices, their apartment rental prices. and right, my price for rent is less than that. But I got lucky. I had a friend who lived in the apartment next door to mine, and so I just moved into the next door apartment, so that made it easy. All right, so a bunch of new comments coming in. Oh, Expat Life Ghana is the name of the channel, not just Expat Life. My bad. Yes. And then in terms of, and Joe Dynamite says, yes, schooling here is not a problem, but they think the curriculum might differ a bit from the States. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely going to differ more than just a bit, right? Because I'm sure the history is probably going to be, I'm sure they teach Ghanaian history, but of course, from what I understand, in West Africa, they do teach European history more. In America, they don't teach European history as much. It's mostly American history, of course, revised American history, right? So I think that would probably be the difference here is, and you probably, I don't know how much they teach about, so there probably won't be a lot about the U.S. history. I don't know if that matters to you, Broderick, but I think most of the history will be, taught like around but Ghanaian history is great to learn and to know. And then European history is just kind of a thing that comes along with being in West Africa, right? And in YOA, those are your initials, YOA. Got it. So now I'll know anytime you're on, I'll just call you YOA. They do have international schools. If you're looking for a certain curriculum, there's a Ghana International School that's British curriculum, and they have American, German schools as well. Cool. See, this is why I like to have all you guys on, because you guys are the ones who help me answer some of these questions from these folks. There's a lot of Ghanaians who watch my lives and are subscribers to my channel, and I appreciate each and every one of you, because I don't know how I would answer many of these questions. A lot of them I can answer based on my own personal experience, but you guys help to kind of fill in the blanks where I have trouble answering. All right. Now we're at 1 hour and 22 minutes. Just doing another time check. And there's just as many people on now as there were at an hour. So it looks like the content is really helpful for you guys. I'm glad you guys are watching. Thanks for being here. Any other questions, comments, anything you guys want to say before I wrap it up and close this thing out? It is 10:22 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time, GMT, or Ghana Man Time. Okay. So Joe Dynamite says, history in Africa centered specifically the country in particular. So history that's taught in schools here is specifically around the country here. Okay, cool. Okay. Oops, I didn't mean to. Sorry, I'll get back to you, pro woman. So the question here is, can you fill me in on how much an average rent for a 4-bedroom house in Chado? And by the way, Chado is spelled Tseaddo. When I first got here, I was looking for the exact way you spelled it, and I was like, why can't I find this? Why can't I find this place? But it is Tseaddo. So how much is a 4-bedroom? I don't know how much a 4-bedroom is. I can say 3 bedrooms can range anywhere from like 300 to 1,000, as far as I know. I think it depends on where you are in Chado, because I think some ministers live in Chado, certain areas of Chado, but then there are other areas of Chado that are kind of like under construction and up and coming, and so it's a lot cheaper for sure. And you asked, why did I choose Chado? Is it safe? Is it affluent, et cetera, et cetera? Both, yeah. But really, I chose Chado because of its proximity to everything. It's 15 minutes from the airport, about 10 minutes from Osu, 15-minute drive from Osu, about 10-minute drive to the beach, another 10-15-minute drive to Spintex. So for me, all the areas that I had been going, or I knew people who lived in those areas, it's in close proximity for me. I also had a friend that happened to live in the apartment building I'm living in, so it made it easy for me to decide to move here. So those were all the reasons. Oh, and also when I came here, I happened to do an Airbnb in Chato, two Airbnbs back to back in Chato, and I had booked them both before ever even having come here. So yeah, so those are the reasons I chose Chato. Okay, Pro Woman asks, what's my Instagram again? It is authentic_African. So it looks like this. Hopefully there's no spelling errors. That is my Instagram handle. So yeah, check me out on Instagram. Follow me. I do try my best to update everybody on when these videos are posted on my Instagram page. I have a social media manager who manages my page in Nigeria. So she manages some of the posts and some of the comments. And I manage and I comment on as much as I can and respond to as much as I can as well. Also try to respond to the DMs. But man, my DMs on that page are crazy. There's so many DMs. So I try to get to as many as I can. It's really difficult. There's so many people messaging that page. So if you've sent me a message, I apologize. I will do my best to get back to you. It's just really crazy though. There's a lot there. Da, 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 da. So there's just a lot of people. I like it. You guys are talking to each other, talking about Chato, talking about expats moving to the continent. Okay, cool. All right, guys. We are at 1 hour and 26 minutes. I'm going to wrap this up if there aren't any more questions. Any last minute questions before we go? Anything else? This has been another great live. I'm glad you guys all made it on and asked the questions that you did. And I hope it was helpful for all of you guys. Let me know. Let me know in the chat, in the comments, like if this was helpful. Thumbs up if you found it helpful. Definitely let me know. Any questions, comments, thoughts, concerns, anything that I've mentioned so far? I'll give it a little while, because as I said probably 3 times already, there's like a 10-second delay. So from the time that I say something to the time that you write something, takes about 10 seconds. So, okay. So thanks, Ms. P. I'm glad you found it helpful. I'm glad you liked it. YOA, thank you. Thank you. I'm glad you like the lives. I'll keep them coming every week for sure. Definitely will. Jack, I'm glad you found it helpful. You're welcome. Celeste gave me that thumbs up. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. Pro Woman says, helpful. You're classy and above the fray. Lots of things going on with expats. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for the above the fray. I like that. I like that. And yeah, I like that. I like to hear that I'm classy. Thank you. I'm going to screenshot that and send that to my mom. Joe Dynamite says, well done, sir. Thank you, Joe. All right, cool. Well, if there aren't any more questions, I'm back next Tuesday, by the way. Same time, same place. So if you have any questions, feel free to join then. You can also comment on the video once it's live. Oh, before I go. So Gila's asking if you could follow me on Instagram. Yes, you can. So let me put that up on the screen really quickly for you all to see. So you know the page. Let me see. Let's see. Share my screen. Okay. So if you guys can see it, it's at authentic_African. Oh yeah, please do follow. Get me to 34,000 subscribers. I'm like inching towards 34,000 subscribers. So please do go ahead and like the page, follow the page, like my posts. Yes, please. Yes, please. Only one says you enjoyed the live. thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Thank you for stopping by. Is it Amadou? Amdu threw up the Ghana flag. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for watching. All right, cool. So, guys, I think that's everything, right? I think we covered it all for this week. So, thanks again, everyone, for joining. I really do appreciate you all joining. I mean, this has been really great for me to get to connect with the people who subscribe to the channel. Usually, I'm just talking at you guys and hoping that you're watching, but I like this a whole lot more because this allows me to engage with you all and answer your questions directly. So, yeah, if you guys have any ideas or thoughts on stories or news that you want me to cover in next Tuesday's live, let me know. You guys have already given me some recommendations on people to have on with me on my lives. I definitely will. But yeah, with that, I want to thank you all for joining. Have a good rest of your day, afternoon, or evening, depending on where you are in the world. Thanks again, all of you. And oh, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share this live and this page or this channel with all of your friends. And with that, thanks again for watching. I'll see you all on the next video.